Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this Dawson County Board of Commissioners budget hearing. I want to thank everybody for their attendance, and for those that are online with us, thank you for being with us as well. With the record to show that all 5 of the commissioners are here for this budget meeting that we're having today. We're going to start out with our Planning and Development Department today. A few things for the board. The request is $37,167 more than it was last year. $35,557 of that is in one line item if you look down at technical services, and he's going to go over that again, but that is the cost for what we approved already for their department, I guess this past year. He's got a couple other little items that he's asking for more money in: dues and fees, advertising, vehicle repair and maintenance, property repair and maintenance. So, and he's also got a couple of personnel requests, a planner position, and then he wants to do a rate increase for a building official, and that totals up to $82,317.49. So Jameson, come on up and explain those needs and that couple other items.
Thank you, Chairman. If I could for a second, I'd like to kind of step back and kind of unpack how we got to this point right here. At first, I'd kind of like to talk about GIS. I know GIS isn't on the docket, but anytime I have an opportunity to showcase what Devin can do, that, you know, I try to exercise that. So, but right in front of you, you have a road atlas that we've created. I passed these out. So this is something that a great resource that we want to continue to update as our roads change and as we move forward. But this was actually requested by the sheriff's office to put in the new patrol vehicles, because these new guys sometimes rely on their GPSs a lot. And as you know, in Dawson County, you don't always have great cell service. So it's good to have that road atlas right there. So we're using the GIS department to build and to reach out to other departments and build those communications. And this is just the first step. The GIS has only been in the planning department a couple months, so we're still working on that 3 to 5 year plan. But I do want to go ahead and preface that probably next year during the budget meetings, I'll probably ask for another person in the GIS department. Ultimately, what I would like to see for this department is to be its own department. And this kind of goes back to some of the questions that Commissioner Gaines had for our county manager yesterday. It's a growing department. It's a growing field. We want all of our information in one place so we can rely on them. That new analyst that I just mentioned that I'll probably ask for next year, you know, I've already talked to the tax commissioner, tax assessor. You know, we're outsourcing a lot of our GIS data, especially with those departments. We'd like to see those done in-house, because when things are done in-house, we have more control over them. We have more control over that data. So, and it really all needs to be in one place. So just showcase that for a second. Thank you for, in the planning department, our priority number 2 was a building official. Now, the reason we would like to promote that building official within. Now, the building official's roles are the jobs and duties are given to the, thank you for that, the responsibilities are given to him by the state through the ICC codes. This person's decisions are are appealed directly to the Construction Board of Appeals. So they have their own appeal board that they answer to. There's a lot of administrative duties. The reason I'm asking for a rate change is to give this person a 10% bump. I want my building official to be the highest paid inspector in that office. He's going to have 2 other building inspectors that report directly to him. He's going to have additional administrative duties. And if I'm going to promote somebody, his salary already falls within the salary range of a building official, because he's toward the higher end of a senior building official or senior building inspector. But nonetheless, he'll still be on the lower end of a building official once he's promoted, and if he's promoted, and he will take the certifications, become a certified building official. He's already working toward that. We've already started working toward those goals. Priority number 1 is our principal planner. Now, a principal planner is someone that is mainly in charge of our comp plan, but is also in charge of writing and updating ordinances. And as you know, over the last year, we have updated over 10 ordinances this year alone. You see ordinances, we've seen more public hearings this year than, we've seen in several years in the past. But pending, we still have the 453 corridor that has to come back through. The tree ordinance, short-term rentals, bed and breakfast, solid waste, property maintenance, animal control, noise ordinance, mobile homes. We're looking into adopting a thing about tiny homes that we get so many questions about throughout each week. We have a movie permit, business license, parade and assembly, special event, a sign ordinance, and probably most importantly, the comp plan. The comp plan is going to be this person's, go-to document for just about everything. We've added new zoning classifications. So going through a comp plan process and updating the comp plan is essential in the growth and how we see the future in Dawson County. And we need someone that can step into that role and manage that, more efficiently than, myself that I'm pulled in a lot of different directions. All of these ordinances really should be looked at on a yearly basis. The state passes new laws every year. We need to make sure our ordinances are up to date and up to the standards of state. So we have to be a lot more proactive than reactive. I do want to say you can't really talk about the budget without talking about revenue. In 2019, the plan and development, we brought in $699,000 in revenue, and our budget was $509,000 to operate our department. So far this year, we had a rate increase on our building that was passed last fall, our building permits. So far this year, we've brought in $900,000, and our budget for this year is $549,000. So I just want to, throw out those numbers. You can interpret that the way you want, but those numbers don't include impact fees, alcohol fees, fire department fees. We collect fees for public works. We collect fees for the sheriff's office. We still administrate all those fees, and we take those in through our department. But those are just the fees related to our business licenses, our inspections, re-inspections, zoning requests, building permits is a large portion of that. And I have those numbers. I can break those down for you if you want, but just to see all the, we're going to do over $1 million easy, bringing in revenue. And those are outside of those other large fees that we collect. Moving to the technical services that the chairman brought out. I'm going to kind of go down the list real quick of the things that we requested that are a lot more than what was recommended. We requested $42,808 for technical services. Now that's Intergov. That's what I presented to y'all last year, and that was approved. Intergov was supposed to be rolled out probably about right now. It got pushed back with all the Zoom meetings, and we couldn't have any face-to-face. So we pushed that back out probably to the mid-November is when we're going to roll out with that. Hopefully we'll have all the other departments on board, probably starting January 1. But that's going to be about $40,000 a year. That's in the contract that we signed. We requested $3,500 in vehicle replacement maintenance, mainly because we're going to have 2 vehicles coming up next year. They're going to need tires. Tires on these vehicles, they're all 4-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. They're $1,200 to $1,500 a set for these tires. Lastly, I want to just talk about is what was different in the requested and recommended was the travel, dues and fees, and education. And, I spent a long time talking about this last year. And I just want to reiterate that education and training is probably the most important thing, especially in the planning department, because if you have someone that's making decisions that doesn't have that education, doesn't have that history and that training, they're frustrated. And when employees are frustrated, it frustrates the whole situation. And generally they leave, to be perfectly honest. And we want to keep the people we have, and we want to make sure that in every decision they feel comfortable in making each decision. I won't go really into any more detail than that. The only reason we're only asking for a planner and then to upgrade someone to a building official, the reason we're not asking for additional front office personnel is because of Intergov. Because this government this body has chosen to invest in technology, and this technology is going to dramatically increase the level of service that we can provide with fewer people. So we're really looking forward to Intergov being rolled out and how that interacts with the customers, our citizens. And I want to actually talk about the Marshal's office just for a second as well, but I'll entertain any questions about the planning department.
Questions for James?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, they have different, under the ICC codes that are our minimum standards set forth by the state of Georgia. They have a slightly different role and have a slightly different decisions to make. For example, we recently passed a mobile home ordinance to where we go out and inspect mobile homes. That inspection is done by the building official. The building official signs off on every plan that comes through, all of our plan reviews, and they have a certain level of decision-making skills. Like I said, any decision of the building official doesn't actually come to any form of the government. It goes to a special appeals, a construction board of appeals. So it's a very significant, a significant thing to not be drug in so many different directions. To have one person dedicated for that is extremely important.
The inspectors are supervised by this person.
That is the tier that I want to try to create. I want them to answer to the building official, and then all the administrative stuff is still handled by the planning director.
Is there additional level of, you mentioned training a minute ago, is the training number you have there built into the increased level of knowledge that this building official would need to attain?
Absolutely, absolutely. Now I've encouraged all of my building inspectors to get as many certifications as they can, right? We got plumbing, mechanical, electrical, structural certificates that they all really should have because they inspect all of those areas. And Keith in this position has already worked, once he's already worked on 3 of those, getting his 4th one, his next step is to go into the building official role. And he's already looked into those classes, and those certifications are built into what I've asked for as far as education and training.
Other questions for James?
This principal planner, is that a certified planner?
It can be. It absolutely can be. We're really looking for someone with experience. Experience, we can always get them certified, but absolutely, like technical writing skills, ordinance skills, an understanding of zoning laws and procedures are crucial for this position.
Other questions? Tell us about the market.
Absolutely. Thank you. And there were really not any really significant increases in the marshal's office budget. Really, other than the vehicle maintenance. Once again, I got 2 trucks on the road. I bet you these 2 trucks probably, I got a marshal and an animal control officer. I would be willing to bet that these 2 guys probably put as much miles on these roads as probably the sheriff's office. They're absolutely all over the place constantly. So these trucks are going to need tires, and that's what the vehicle R&M is designated for. The other line item that we asked for was the telephone that was $2,000 instead of $1,250, and that's because we have 3 cell phones. They're each $50 a month. One of them came over from the planning department, and you'll see that at the end of the year. You'll see that reflected in our expenditures for this year. But what I really want to unpack for a second is the fact that the county manager did an excellent job requesting for a chief marshal. A chief marshal is one of those, if we want to see success in the marshal's office, we need to, I'm not sure that I can provide that. I get pulled in a lot of different directions. So having that chief marshal to manage that and having those administrative duties is an important to the growth of that department and important to the success of that department. And once again, the marshal's office also brings in revenue. Alcohol, all the alcohol fees are come out of the marshal's office. So to date, the marshal's office has brought in $396,000. Now, toward the end of the year, we're going to start getting in a lot more fees from alcohol because we do, not only do we do permitting, we do licenses and excise tax. And once we see the licenses start to renew in really November, December, you'll probably see that revenue probably in the $700,000 range. So we're talking around $700,000 compared to the $169,000 for the marshal's office that they bring in. So right now, the marshal's office is not a burden, I would say, is not a burden on the taxpayers. Right now, we are still reactive in our marshal's office. We have started a lot of different programs like visiting businesses without licenses, sending out letters. We send out a lot more letters now. We're seeing a lot of great responses. Angela's sending out a lot of letters, and we have a lot more communication, and I don't have to send a marshal out there. It's saving us a lot of time and effort. But honestly, the amount of phone calls we get in, we answer every single one as quickly as possible. That takes up the majority of our time, and that's reactive. Like I said, we can be we're going to be proactive as much as we can with the personnel we have, and it's essential to see that department grow. As we start updating these ordinances, we need to see them being enforced. And that's basically it. I just wanted to drive the 2 points home is neither the marshal's office nor the plan and development. We're bringing in our share. And I don't see us as being a burden to the tax base. So those are all good things, and we want to see that these departments grow as we move forward.
Other questions for James?
James, oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I was just going to ask about the fee. The 900,000, is that 396 included in that, or is that plus the 900 y'all brought in? So earlier you said around
sir. The $902,296. That's basically just what the planning department brought in.
And then
the
plus the 396.
396 was brought in by the marshal's office. So
Okay.
I've done over the last 2 years. We're working on separating these
$1.2
departments.
million.
They've been so intertwined for so long. They need to be operated separately to be operated efficiently. And so my job over the last 2 years is trying to break these departments apart and find where one jurisdiction ends and when one begins, and we're trying to make it so it essentially for it to be its own department. And to answer your question, these are separate figures. So if you put those figures together, if you put all the figures together, the money collected through this year throughout both departments is $2.5 million, a little over $2.5 million is how much we've brought in.
Tax commissioner's going to come up here and say she brought in about $30 million, and she's going to want a lot
Sure.
too, so.
Absolutely.
Jameson, who's included in the marshal's office? Is that the animal control?
Absolutely. So we have one animal control officer,
Okay,
Brendan. We have
Yes.
Grayson, who is our code enforcement officer.
okay,
And then we have an administrative assistant that's Angela, who handles a
okay,
whole lot in the office.
okay. So if we do what Dave was requesting yesterday, would these three people be moved out of there into?
Yes. Yes, they would.
Okay.
Other questions?
Just quick follow-up to about the lead, and I think Tim brought this up yesterday, or Billy did one. The chief marshal, I thought we talked about maybe pulling somebody in that's already certified that could maybe mandated that can maybe handle that role as well as some other roles. I mean, from your perspective of that workload, I know what you put in, what you put into it. obviously you don't do it full-time, well, you might do that full-time plus all the other things you do full-time as well, but is that a possibility, you think, to be done efficiently?
To pull it in from a different area.
It's
um,
already mandated.
And it's already mandated.
Within the county.
Yeah.
I'd want in more information as to directly where you pull it from. This potentially is a full-time position, and it could be 100% of their time enforcing ordinances that, you know, that may not have been enforced in the past. You know, once someone grabs this bull by the horns, it's going to be a lot of work.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Other questions? Thanks, James.
Thank you.
I see that Miss Glenda is here. She took a 3-minute break to come up here with us because she's kind of got a few things going on. I don't know exactly why.
That'd be a good one. Pretty good
She would be busy, but she is.
one.
So we want Miss Glenda to come on up. She's with the Board of Elections, as you well know. And let's see here, Miss Glenda. What you'll see as you look at the elections line item, you'll see that she had requested $180,000 in salary, but you also see that that has been broken down into 2 different line items, a poll worker salary and then her regular staff. And if you add those 2 numbers together, that comes out to the $180,000. She had some increases in group insurance, which is normal. She had, and there was a question I had for her in reference to, down if you go around telephone, your telephone has been over what you've requested the last 2 years, so we may want to take a serious look at that. She asked for more money in postage, and I'm sure that's due to absentee balloting and what she expects in 2021, and also more money in advertising because I'm sure she has to do some of that as well as education and training, which she didn't have in 2020 because they've gone to an odd year training schedule for the Board of Elections and her staff. And the one thing that she had in 2021 that wasn't in 2020 as well is some contract labor. The vendor that she's currently using for the elections on this new equipment and stuff that she has that runs out the end of this year. I guess that was paid for by the state this year. And if we want to keep those people doing that, and she's made that request to do so, then that's $4,875. And with that, her request is still less than her 2020 budget, because as we know, odd years, we have less election in our odd years than we do obviously in our even years. So Miss Glenda, come on up and explain those items there as well.
Thank you. I think you did pretty good. I can go back now. So for the most part, what Chairman Herman said is true. We've got, that's pretty much it. It's pretty open. Okay, do I need to do this? I'm sorry. And if I put my glasses on and off, I see y'all blurry, so I'm in between that stage. But anyway, I guess I'll be open for some questions. The thing that we mostly, and I have to regroup because it has been a little while and I was trying to get through that this morning with all the crowd. But everything pretty much is still the same. I know there's some increases here and there that we're seeing, you know, with the equipment, paper, et cetera, that I have no way of gauging on some things, but for the most part, it's pretty, stays pretty much the same as what you have in front of you. And so I'll entertain any questions. Of course, you know, we had the personnel forms that Natalie adjusted for us and sent to us, and I'm not sure where that's at now, right now, with increases, et cetera, and asking, but it's in front of you.
Talk about those 2 rate increases that you'd like to see for staff.
Okay, great. The one thing, and Brad and I have talked about some of this as well. We don't want to hurt our employees by giving them a certain title through the salary study we had. I wasn't exactly thrilled with some of the results of that because election offices across the state are so different. People do different things. You've got probate judges that's doing elections still somewhat, and you've got, you know, some people hire the LNA, the logic and accuracy testing, and different parts of that we do ourselves internally. And so we do a variety of things. But I did want them to be able to have due diligence to what they do, and they've worked hard and they're still working hard. So I do ask that the board consider this for them. I know that they did get an increase back in January, and very thankful for that. But we just kind of held on to these personnel change requests until that salary study was done. So I'm presenting to you again for the staff to be able to look at this, and still adjusting on these salary titles I'm not sure about, but we'll get through that. The titles are not as important to us as being compensated for what they do. So if you consider that, I'd appreciate it. And I think that we've justified, I don't know if I need to say any more for the public, but the justifications there when you compare, and I know you hear this all the time, comparing to other counties, and they can go here and go there. Dawson County's, you know, we love working in Dawson County, and we accept the fact that it is different. So, but when you do compare it, it is like, whew. But again, so we are requesting that for Rochelle and Brittany. And so, and then the contract person, we're hoping that I can find time, or some of us can. It's a lot more technical than the previous system. We had that down pat, but I think it's because of the timing with this new equipment and having to do everything at such in a short time frame that we've not been able to sit down with the tech and to just get a good handle on how to handle the upload system, the election night upload system. So hopefully we will do that, because I don't want that just in the hands of somebody other than our office as well. But until we can gauge that, we probably need to utilize Tim, especially since who is the Dominion Tech, especially since we're looking at an election in January, which I'm not sure that the vendor is going to cover yet. We don't know. And then if we potentially have a special in March, which we're looking at, and then of course the municipal in November. So hopefully by that time frame in between, we can get a good handle on that, not need him, but I just wanted to have it in place in case we do. So having presented that to you, for the most, I think everything else remains the same for us. The training, I noticed that on an average, and I know Natalie, them, and Vicki have to do an average there, but it is going to be important that we all go, especially in this critical time of the new equipment and the changes, et cetera. So I know that some of that is a little different than what I requested originally. So if we could have that added back in, we'd appreciate that as well. So I think
Questions for Glenda?
I guess this is for county manager and HR. Do those two employees fit into that 105? The rate?
I'd have to go back and double check that. We discussed it as far as the outline goes, is what needed to be presented for changing rates or reclassifying employees.
Right.
And it's said she's still not sure on the title. That's pretty much what we've gone. That 105 looks like it should be about right. I'd have to go back and check.
Okay. Because I know if they fit in that, if we could possibly go to that next phase of that pay study, it might cover some of that.
Okay, you're right. Yeah, the 105. No, I don't know. I'd have to go back.
Yeah, if you could check on that for us. Thanks.
Have they picked up, since we did the salary study, part of the salary study was each department head engaged with the salary study team to do a deep dive into the processes and the job descriptions and the workloads that each individual employee had. Have they had a change? Have they added more work since that process was done? Or has anything changed in their roles since that process was or since that information was communicated to the salary study folks?
I'm trying to think if that is the case. I've turned more over to Rochelle as far as training. She's doing all the training. Brittany is handling the employees other than I do the hiring and evals if there are any. So they're in the supervision role, both of them, because it's kind of where we're at. You can't just give this one this and that because we have to work together. There's only 3 of us, so it's kind of hard to divide that. So we kind of all do this same way, almost the same thing, to cross-train to make sure everybody's, you know, at any given time can step up to the plate. So as far, I'm trying to think of what all I put in there, but I think I was pretty detailed about what they do, each one does. So with this new equipment, like I say, that's added a more technical side.
And that's been something new that's changed since that conversation with the salary study folks.
Yes, we wouldn't have any
Okay.
way of knowing, yeah, that kind of, yeah. It's added on, and the absentee balloting process, like I say, when you've got all of this other, it's almost impossible, it is impossible for Brittany to do that herself. We've had a part-time person in there throughout this whole time, and they're just going. There's stacks of ballots everywhere. They're going as fast as they can go. So it's definitely, the process has changed since then, yes. Yeah, it's increased, the workload's increased.
Is that person helping you? You know, we approved part-time for you.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Is that helping?
Oh, that was a godsend. Yes, she is very sharp.
Okay.
Beverly came from executive history. So, and she is retired, and she just came right in, and she's pulled stuff off off our website, and she studied and did. And when she answers the phone, you know, we've listened, we're comfortable with her answering the phones, and she does it. We're able to get things done, which has been such a big help.
Do you supervise her, or have you put that to Brittany or Rochelle?
Well,
Or is she just a butterfly? Just
we kind of
Fine.
all just, we got to get that settled. Yeah, it's
You
kind of
what?
like, we've got to get that settled. It's kind of
Oh.
like she just came in and we were just so crazy. We're all
I
just
know.
giving things. So I really haven't assigned that to anybody. I just
Okay.
generally always oversee, you know, the poll workers in general.
what title is she designated? This part-time, did you give her a title?
We have a queen right now, but you don't go anywhere. We call you what you want to be called right now. Just be there.
And when did she come on board?
Oh gosh, when did she come on board? It was
It's not
it was
been
around the 1st of September, was it?
It's
Was
not
it?
been that long.
No,
yeah.
it's just
So-
been a
so
few
that's-
weeks.
That's working out.
And she was a new poll worker, so she'd only been working with us probably about a month. She worked, I think, well, I'll say that, in June. She worked in June. And so, yeah.
And how many days a week? When we say part-time, how much is she working?
Well, she is doing the 4 days. We
Okay.
did, we did the 4 days, or we asked for the full week, I think the 40-hour week or whatever, but she is doing 4 days right now through the election. It's taken it. So we're hoping we can back that off when, after the election, just a couple of days maybe until it just, till it kind of comes back up with a runoff and starts speeding up again.
To say that the election office is under a microscope doesn't even cover it.
No, it doesn't.
So, I mean, you've got to have people, qualified people, and I mean, they got to be on top of their game every minute of every day. I don't know why I'm saying that. I guess because I'm so inundated with all this on the media, but I mean, I get it.
Mhm.
Where y'all have to be, you just have to watch everything.
You do, as
So
best you can.
you need qualified people, you need people there all the time.
Mhm.
So I'm glad she's working out.
Me
Because
too.
you definitely needed that.
Yeah, me too. Because we left at 9:30 last night. By the time we balanced and did everything. So it's like, because we had 930 people to vote yesterday.
I was
So
going to
it
ask you how
took-
many.
Yeah,
9?
930.
Wow.
So, yeah. and
Wow.
Yeah, it was a big day, but it was a good day. Went smooth.
It did?
Yes, it did. Went smooth. So it was a good day. And, but we couldn't have done it with all the team members. We had more poll workers than we've ever used to. They were right. It's taking them. And then with her on the phones and, you know, we even have people directing people in and out and trying to social distance. So it really went well. So, and I appreciate your support, everybody's support, because it's been well needed, and others, you know, Danny Thompson and of course Brad, them I've sent last minute people to them, so I'm surprised they haven't hung me or whatever. I got one more too, by the way, Brad. But you know, things, if everybody's pulled to the plate and been patient with us when I've not been able to get back in, you know, timely fashion, so I
Have
appreciate
you
it.
had any trouble finding poll workers?
No, we have not. As a
Okay.
matter of fact, we've got people that are still calling, wanting to volunteer, want to do, you know, so
great.
we'll do the volunteers. Actually, we just had 2 volunteers come in because I told them we don't have time to pay you right now, so you'll have to volunteer. You know, we just, you know, with
Yeah.
payroll, I mean, with HR. So, but yes, we do have plenty and they keep coming in. So,
That is wonderful.
yeah. Any more questions?
Any other questions for Linda?
No, I just, Dan Hopkins, Vice Chairman of the Board.
Sorry, I'm bad about inducing.
You know, I would just urge you to seriously consider these personnel changes. You just can't imagine the complexity of what these ladies do. And I think retention is the key word here, because you know, if we have to find somebody to do Rochelle's or Brittany's job, I can't imagine how many years it would take to bring that person back to the level of knowledge that these 2 ladies have. I mean, if you look at the code book that they have to work under, I mean, the thing is this thick, and to know everything that's in there, and they do. I mean, I watch them on a daily basis when I come in, and it's just amazing to me, their knowledge. So I think we need to take that into consideration. You know, these aren't just clerical positions, and you know, we don't want to be on the news. Trust me. You're exactly right. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'll go back to work now.
Okay, thank you. That's not mine. No.
And by the way, somebody came in and asked Glenda the other day if her position was part-time or full-time. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
All right, let's see. Next up, we have Avita. Are you with Avita? All right. I don't know your name, so you'll have to come up and give us your name. This is I think they made a request last year, but we weren't able to get them up here, so they made another request this year. And so they are here to explain to you what they do and why they're making the request that they're making. And I think that request was for $15,000.
Well, good morning. I'm glad we got here a few minutes early. You're running ahead of schedule, which is always a good thing. I'm Cindy Levi, and I'm the CEO for Avita Community Partners. Have been in that position with the organization for the last 9 years. Avita is a community service board formed through legislation back in 1994 to provide mental health, addiction, and developmental disability services. Avita has been assigned to cover the geographic area of the 13 counties of Northeast Georgia. And we do serve those most in need, which are residents of Dawson County with mental health, developmental disability, and substance use disorders. During the our last fiscal year, we did serve 646 individuals from Dawson County, and that number continues to grow. We do operate a service center that's located just behind the Premium Outlet Mall on Lumpkin Campground Road. We have 2 suites there. The upper floor of the building is where we have an outpatient clinic which is just like a doctor's office. So we offer counseling services and medication management and other services out of that location. And then on the bottom floor, we operate developmental disability day services. And we do have 18 staff members that do work out of that office. We have been in that particular location since March of 2017. We had worked with former Commissioner Byrd for several years trying to locate space in Dawson County as we wanted to have a physical presence. We did serve residents of Dawson County in some of our neighboring locations prior to that time period. But what we heard from the residents of the county was, we don't want to have to drive to Dahlonega, or we don't want to have to drive to Gainesville. We would like you to have a presence here. And so for several years, the Board of Commissioners was trying to help find us a location, perhaps in a county-owned building, as that's primarily where we do operate in the other counties that we serve, which is very helpful. We usually do so at no cost or a very low cost, or we have an arrangement where the commission does give us some funding, and then we pay like a maintenance fee to help maintain the building, that type of a thing. Unfortunately, we weren't able to be located in a Dawson County-owned building, and so we do have those added expenses. On the next slide, you'll see the range of services that are available to Dawson County residents on the behavioral health, developmental disability side of the services that we provide, and they are available across the board to Dawson County residents. Under the other category are services that are provided not in the county but are eligible to county residents. So for example, the Crisis Stabilization Unit, which is located in Flowery Branch. And we do serve Dawson County residents. They're able to go there either voluntarily or if they need to be admitted in an involuntary basis for mental health crisis or detox from prescription medications, alcohol, or illegal substances. We also operate a women's treatment and recovery support program, also in Hall County, available to Dawson County residents, and that is a substance use program, and it's a residential program, and it's considered what's called a women and children's program, and so women can take their children up to age 13 actually into treatment with them. Women that have children, of course, that's one of the largest barriers for women to seek treatment, is who's going to care for my children. For those women that don't have custody of their children, we do work with DFACS, provide supervised visitation, and the ultimate goal is for them to be in a position where they can care for their children. And we also offer counseling and case management services for individuals that are deaf or hard of hearing. This is a program that we've been asked by the State Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disability Services to actually offer statewide as a result of a settlement agreement that they entered into. So we are offering those services as well. Next slide. We're also providing mental health services in Dawson County schools, middle school, junior high, and senior high school. Of course, at no charge to the school district. We actually have counselors that will go into the schools that are employees of ours and work along with the school district. That makes it much more convenient for children to receive mental health treatment when they need it. Parents don't have to take off work and go get their child out of school and drive them to an appointment, missing a lot of school or missing a lot of work. We also have offered the Yellow Ribbon Suicide Prevention Program, and this past year we did present that to the Faculty of Blacks Middle Elementary and Dawson County High Schools. We also have partnered with the Crisis Intervention Team and have provided 40-hour training to Dawson County law enforcement this past year on ways to intervene when they're called to a scene that may involve a mental health emergency or an individual with autism or substance use disorder and so on, so that it remains safe, the environment is safe, and the individuals are treated with respect. They are taught de-escalation techniques. And what we have seen is the state of Georgia has changed the way that they pay us for our services. And so in the past, we would just get a 1/12 payment. We were allocated a certain amount of money. We were expected to stay within that budget. But 3 years ago, they did change that and they went to more of a fee-for-service model. So we are paid based on the services that we provide. If you followed this past legislative session, because of the coronavirus, there were significant cuts in the budget. We saw about a $500,000 cut to our budget this past year. Our ability to serve Dawson County residents is increasingly dependent on local funding because of that. And we are requesting $15,000 for the upcoming year. This will primarily help offset expenses that are not covered by state funds. And as I mentioned earlier, because we do have expenses associated with operating in the county, primarily rent, utilities, those kinds of things, we are asking that the county help to partially cover those costs. And I'd like to call upon our Chief Financial Officer, Greg Ball, and he'll walk you through the slide that gives you the particulars on those costs. Greg?
Good morning. My name is Greg Ball. I'm the CFO at Avita Community Partners. And there on the last slide, as Cindy mentioned, the state does not reimburse us for any kind of facility-related costs. So we presented here the cost for the fiscal year ended June 30th, both for our behavioral health suite as well as the developmental disability for Dawson County. You can see that the building rent is about $35,500. Repairs and maintenance costs totaled around $9,000, and utilities very close to $6,000. So in total, about $50,500 that Avita pays for occupancy-related costs for our sites and services here in Dawson County. So the $15,000 is about 30% of those costs. So, you know, if the question is on how we use the funds, it would be for this particular purpose to help offset at least partly 30% of the facility costs.
How many square feet do you have?
I don't know. Do you know how many square feet we have, Cindy?
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know that offhand. We do occupy 2 suites. I don't know what the actual square footage is. I apologize.
Can you get me that number when you have a chance?
Sure, we will. Any questions?
Other questions?
Anything at all? We're good?
Good.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Okay, up next is Good Shepherd Clinic. I don't believe they're here yet, so we've got a few minutes. If anyone needs a break and we'll get started back here in just a few minutes. All right, we'll get started back. Next on our list, we have the Good Shepherd Clinic. Good Shepherd Clinic, if you look at the history, we've been giving some money to them. This year, they've had a increase request, a one-time increase, if I understood what they said originally. We've been giving them $3,000, and you will see that they're asking for 20, and I'm going to let them come up and explain that to you. So come on up.
I'm Kay Harris, and I've been volunteering at the clinic since 2009. Can I take it off? Okay. Okay, all right.
Pull that microphone to you, please.
Oh, pull it.
There you go. Thank you.
You and me too. So I'm Kay Parrish, and I've been there with the clinic since we started in 2009. And in 2015, I became the executive director. With me today are members of our board. Steve Melchin is chairman of our board, and Joe Brewer is the vice chair. Also on the board, Joe Fortune, who's our volunteer coordinator, and Tony Passarella is also on our board. And thank you for having us. I'm excited to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity. We're requesting $20,000 to help support a medical home. $20,000 to help support a medical home for the indigent citizens of Dawson County. And that funding will help to improve their health so that they can enjoy life, return to work, and maybe pay taxes. Then also that will help achieve a better quality of life in the county of Dawson. Next slide. Our mission, as it has always been, is we strive to make Dawson County a better place by providing health care for those who have none. It's always been the county that we've been focused on. To be eligible to receive services, you must live, work, and go to school in Dawson County. You must be an adult over the age of 18. You cannot have health insurance of any kind, not Medicare, not Medicaid, not VA benefits. And you must be in the 200% federal poverty level, at it or below. Once you receive that eligibility, then we give you the free services, which include medical, dental, vision, audio, mental health counseling, referral services for other specialties, and free medication. Next slide. And in a blink of an eye, the world changed. And people were quarantined, businesses closed, people lost their jobs, unemployment skyrocketed. As well, our operation was impacted. I'm often asked, how was the clinic impacted by the pandemic? And I'm really proud to report to you that we have not ever closed. We have been open for our patients to receive medical services and medications, mental health counseling. We've had to limit the days that we were open. We've lost some volunteers because they also are subject to have the disease, and we've lost money because we're donor dependent. Next slide. Our request for $20,000 is to help us recuperate some of that lost revenue that we have from this year. We think our lost revenue will be this year $42,000. We're donor dependent, and businesses have fallen back as well as people in their donations. Our fundraising efforts have been canceled. Let's take a closer look at those increasing costs. We are providing PPE, not only for medical staff, but also for administrative staff and patients. That includes things like face masks, face shields, gowns, gloves, and we follow CDC guidelines. Luckily to say, nobody has caught the COVID from being in our clinic. Our testing for the COVID-19 is increased and we're paying $100 a test. The lab cost this year will probably be $32,500. Our equipment we've had to purchase includes new sterilization equipment. We bought 2 new air scrubbers, which take the particles out of the air 33 times in an hour that we use in our exam rooms. We've also had to add telemedicine because some of those visits that could not come in the clinic, we are still providing via telemedicine. So now we need the software, we need more telephones, and we need the Bluetooth equipment like the stethoscopes and the Bluetooth glucometers so we can still see what's going on with our patients. The $20,000 will also help with regular operating cost. We're still purchasing all of those medications that we can't get through pharmaceutical foundations. Last year, we provided over $1 million worth of medication. And this year, it's still going to be close to that. But we think our out-of-pocket will be over $60,000, not in the $50,000 mark. We also estimate our laboratory cost to being around $29,000 this year. Our software is old and needs to be replaced for dental to come back. And we're trying to increase greater awareness. Nearly everybody who comes to our clinic and has a tour says, I never realized how many services you offer. And we need to tell the community that we're here to serve them if they need those services. And creating greater awareness has marketing costs. We're proud of the impact that we've had on the Dawson County community. I'd like to show you what happened in 2019. We had over 417 patients that we serviced with 2,548 visits. That $20,000 would cover about $7.80 per visit, and that's 15% of a visit. And we will still be providing those medications that we pay for, that $58,000 that we pay for medications like generic prescription drugs. 90% out of every dollar donated is used for patient costs, not administration. And we reduced the amount of non-emergent patients visiting the ED rooms around the community. And that includes the emergency ambulance drives that would take them there. I understand that's about $704 per ride, and that's money the county wouldn't get back because our patients can't afford to pay that. We were voted Best Place to Volunteer and Best 501c3 for the 3rd time in a row. And the National Association of Free and Charitable Clinics awarded us the Gold Standard of Service Award. Next slide. We've got pretty big 2020 goals. We have to cover that $160,000 worth of operating cost. And we've worked hard at fundraising. We've got a couple new programs. I hope you've seen the Scarecrow Fest around the county. We tried to do something fun. And we're also ran a full-scale marketing campaign called Amazon Smile. If you choose us on Amazon as your charity, Amazon will pay us 0.5% for everything you buy through them. So that's just a couple of the new fundraisers we've started. We've looked at managing our costs. We have a formulary we use for our drugs, and we don't pay for over-the-counter drugs, and we work with businesses in our community to make sure that we are paying the less amount of money for everything we purchase. We're exploring all those new ways, and with the lifeblood of our clinic depends on 2 parts: donations and volunteers. We're 100% volunteer and donor dependent. And this year we have to recreate 14 new volunteers. 5 new medical professionals, and 9 administrative staff. And we're ramping up our efforts to create greater awareness. We have a new mail-out campaign, we have website campaigns, Facebook campaigns, and we're using the newspaper to let people know we're here to serve. Next slide. We thought you would be interested in knowing what's happened in the 10 years that we've been here. In 2009, we served 50 patients. Of course, 19, we served 417. And an interesting fact is, over the life of the county, of the clinic, we've served 1,523 individuals that belong to this county. Volunteers work. That says 8, it was actually 15, and we have 92 new volunteers now. Our operating budget in 2009 was $6,000. It's now $160,000. Services provided were 2, medical services and free medications, and now we do 8. Our facility was in the basement of a church where we had 8,000 square feet. Now, because of the good graces of Northeast Georgia healthcare systems, we have over 5,200 square feet in a beautiful facility. 2009's impact was relatively small, but in 2019, I think we made a difference. And our youngest donor in 2009 was 55 years old. In 2019, they were 10. I'd like to introduce you to Landon Bryant. And this is Landon. And she provides to us over-the-counter drugs that we don't purchase. And she would like to, tell you why she is so involved in the clinic and why she continues to contribute. And so there's another slide. No. Go back. I thought it worked. Anyway, she had a very nice video that says why she was donating to us. She takes her ice cream money and saves her ice cream money and goes to the Dollar General when they're having sales and buys their penny drugs and Kleenex and diapers and things and brings them to the clinic. And we have a place called Landon's Rainbows and she brings things to us often, about once a quarter. And she's actually had yard sales where she's earning money to buy those same things. And she thinks it's important, and we do too. It takes all of us, young, old, government organizations, churches, to improve the health of Dawson County. Thank you. Yes, we do. Unfortunately, they may be just over that 200% poverty level, or they may live, you know, Dawson County, there's a road in Dawson County called called Kelly Bridge, and it sort of goes in and out of the county. It doesn't stay in. And so sometimes people are right over that line. Like when Alba House used to be right over that line. Well, they were at Alba House, so we still accepted them because there was another Alba House over in Dawson County. We try to find a way. We have a policy of if you have 3 no-shows, you will have to stay out a year because that's an insult to our volunteers. And we didn't throw anybody out during 2020 because we feel like they don't have any other place to go. And we don't want to send them to the emergency room because then the possibility of them passing or getting the COVID is much, much greater. No, we walk. Now, dental, we have a really long wait list. You know, we've had a long wait list for vision, but vision starts back again next week. So we're really excited about that. But no, we don't turn them away. We find a way to help.
Do you see people on an, say if they're diabetic, do you see them every 3 months?
Yes,
Or
we
every
do.
6 months? So once they get in the program, then you continue.
We
Give
have,
'em
we
care.
actually do two things. We have a diabetic management nurse. She's an FNP, and she calls them every month. And so they have a nurse visit every month about how are they managing their diabetes. And this is particularly if they have an A1C over 8, which we figure they're really in, they need us to be monitoring them at that point. And that's why we need the Bluetooth glucometers, because sometimes people will say, well, I'm taking it, but we need to know when you're taking it and what is it after dinner and what is it when you haven't eaten. So that's why we're looking to purchase Bluetooth glucometers. So she talks to them all the time. We also have a nurse that does a smoking cessation program over the telephone. That's another reason for the telemedicine. And all of our cardiology appointments are by televisit. And so we need those Bluetooth stethoscopes so that the cardiologist can hear exactly what's going on. And those appointments are in the clinic, but our cardiologists are compromised, so they can't come in. So then they are doing a televisit. And we think with the telemedicine that we can get other specialists. We know it's been proven in other clinics that by having telemedicine, you can get other specialists. And they could be in the UK. In fact, one of the clinics has an FNP that's in the UK, and she services their clients from the UK and to the United States.
Other questions?
I think most of you have visited. If you haven't, please do. We welcome you to come and see what we have and see what we need, see what we can do better. Thank you.
Tell me again, how many days a week?
Right now, we're open Thursday from 8:30 in the morning until 5 at night. We're trying to open Friday, but I need another couple of physicians to work that. I've got one new one. Dr. Trey Gunter, he's now volunteering with us. He's very young. He has young children, so he can only give us one afternoon a month. So in order to open Fridays, I got to have more physicians. I do
So
have an
right now, it's
FNP.
just one day a week.
Right now, it's Thursday all day.
Okay.
And we used to be open 4 days before COVID,
Okay.
but dentistry hasn't opened back. Vision is just opening up next week. Our cardiologists used to come in on Tuesdays. They're not now because they're compromised, and we're doing that over the telephone.
Other questions? Thank y'all. Thank you for all the work that y'all do.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, all.
Thank you for the opportunity. We really appreciate it.
Just from information, I know there's a question a while ago when Glenda was here with elections
Yes.
about the 2 employees that she had asked for a rate increase. They both are at the 105% level.
Okay.
Brad was able to get that information to us,
Okay.
so he's on the ball. Next up, we have the district attorney, which he's not here at the moment, so if it's okay with y'all, I'll take a couple of minutes and just kind of go over some of the ones that we didn't bring in. Just kind of update you on those so that you will be familiar with that. I'll start with the Board of Commissioners budget. You do actually have a budget, and that budget is being recommended at $7,392 more than it was this year. And the reason for that is an increase in group insurance. And that increase itself was 14,330. So we subtracted some other line items to get down to that 7392. So that is the Board of Commissioners budget. You heard from elections and you heard from the county administration. General government. General government, what it covers is we've got a contingency in there for group insurance of $100,000. Professional services, we've got listed there. The attorney fees are in the general government portion of the budget. We're looking at $250 there. The Historical Society phone, remember we moved that to the general government, that's $1,100. And dues and fees of the different organizations that we belong to. These are all pretty well the same as they were in 2020. This is also where we pay the Etowah water and sewer notes that we have and the interest that's associated with those. Those have not, well, the principal payment has gone up in 2021 for one of those notes from 270 to 275. And then we also have, the others seem to be pretty close to the same. In this area, last year we had put at the very beginning the salary increase that was proposed. And so we don't have anything in that number at this particular time, but that is where I'll propose to you when the time comes that we put that dollar amount to bring the remaining 101 people that we have up to the 105% level. And I think that's somewhere in the neighborhood of $106,000, $107,000. And even with that in the budget, it'll still be probably less than what we had in 2020, based on the fact that the salary money we'd put in that was larger at that particular time. And then that'll depend on whether the board wants to do something reference salary the rest of the way as we look at that as well.
So can we run the numbers at a 107, an additional 2%? So we'll know what that would look like across the
entire county?
Yeah, because as Tim's point yesterday, we discussed in the past, we do these and then we get behind the curve. I'm just interested in seeing what it would look like.
Perhaps catching some of those employees that might not be 105. See if it catches all the others.
No, I guess to do the 105 and then do a 2% across the board, just to see what that number would look like. It might be too much, but again, to the same point we've continually brought up is we do these things, we implement them, we spend a ton of money getting competitive, and then we get right behind the 8 ball again. So just so we know what that.
Brad, this salary study, I know it gave us a 100% number, a 105 number, and a 110 number.
Yeah.
It didn't give us a year-to-year breakdown for each employee, did it?
No, it didn't.
Okay.
Well, it shows the new salary.
Yeah, shows a new one, but I'm talking about, it just went on those percentages, basically, those three percentages, 100, 105, and 110. So basically, you're right. If we looked at 107%, you'd be in the same boat across the board, which would encompass all those people that are not at 105, obviously, if we brought everybody up to 107. I mean, still need the 105 number, which I have from you already that you gave me before. But then, like his request is, give us that new number, which would encompass all those other people as well, getting them to that point. Everybody'd be at the same point then. Can you reflect on why everybody is not at 105%? Because I thought that's what we voted for.
We went to 100%, and then we talked about waiting 6 months. That was in January, and then COVID hit. So we did 100, but then there was a handful.
Other people are already at 105.
Yeah, they were at 100. They weren't at 105.
Okay. All right. So I do think it's critical that we get at least that piece done at some point throughout.
Everybody wound up at 100, but not everybody was
Yeah.
at 105.
Yeah. All right. All right. So that's pretty much general government. A lot of things, like I said, involved in general government. That's where we pay. It's where we have some contingencies. We've got a legal contingency in there. We have some other contingencies. So you have copies of that. If you have any questions, you can ask about that. Finance is the next one. Their increase. Their increase is $29,588. That's all in salary and benefits. And those are changes that we made, and that's due to some changes that she's had in her office in reference to people. Some people have left, and then other people took different types of insurance that were associated with that. You'll also see that we used to have a county attorney separate budget when we had a county attorney in-house. We don't have that now. That's in general government. So you will not see any numbers in that as you look through the paperwork that's associated with that. You saw information technology yesterday. They made that presentation to you. You also saw human resources yesterday. That presentation was made to you as well. Next one that we'll talk about is the tax commissioner. There was some minor changes in their salary and benefits, but for the most part, there wasn't a whole lot of change to their budget, and it was $3,940, and those, like I said, fell in the salary and benefit category as well. The tax assessor, they had some group insurance increases as well as retirement contribution increases. Over on in theirs, they had requested $8,000 in the county attorney column. I spoke with Elaine. They're actually using our attorney, so that dollar amount can be taken out because we're doing that in a different form and fashion. And so they had also made a request for an increase in telephone, and that was based on the fact that they had given their field appraisers county-owned cell phones now instead of them using their own. And I think that's a good thing that they have. If they're going to do work for us, they should be provided the equipment they need to be able to do that work as well. And then even with all of that, their budget is less than it was in 2020. Approximately about somewhere between $10,000 and $12,000. Board of Equalization, they're
Sorry to interrupt. I included it with all the information. After Elaine looked over the budget recommendations, she had a couple items that she had questions about. So she put it in writing. There's an email in there, and I included it for all of you.
Okay.
If you go back and reconsider.
So if y'all can look at that before we go through that one. If you have any questions, you can give her a call. Board of Equalization made the same request as they did last year. We looked at recommendation there, and it's just a little bit less than what they requested, but similar to what they had in 2020 as well. Risk management, let's see, we made that change. There was a larger number in that one at one point. And so we had to flip those back as far as the insurance for property and stuff like that. So their request was actually less as well than it was the year before by approximately $21,000. Facility management, Talbert's group, his request, he had some reductions in group insurance. That's due to changes in personnel. Had some people come and go. And so that went down $19,912 and a drop in salary as well because he had a longtime employee that left that had been with us for a very, very long time, and he retired, I guess, and went to Florida. And so, Mr. Fox, so that made some change there. So his budget actually came in, we're recommending actually about $1,000 more than he asked for because it's changed some line items. Still comes in like $26,000 under what he had the year before. Public relations, you've heard from them. Superior Court is up next. They had some changes to their salary budget, about $6,000 reduction there. Their other line items, most of them stayed the same. The biggest change you'll see in the Superior Court budget is in our intergovernmental agreement. If you remember, our agreement says 10%, I believe, of the cost, and we've been a little bit under that. They brought that to our attention this past year. And so that alone, intergovernmental agreement from the $36,000 we were paying to $70,000. And so their budget is an increase with the recommended of about $27,440, but that's something we'll have to do because that's part of the contract that we have with them. Let's see. Well, next up, we have the Clerk of court. The budget request from Justin was about 14,000 below what he had requested in 2020. And there was, and what you'll see in that when you take a look at it is you won't see a line item number in the salary passports, but that's added as that comes in. So that line item will show blank at this current time. And so that'll garner that number up a little closer when it's all said and done, but they still probably will wind up under what they were in 2020.
As the passport fees are collected and paid out to
District Attorney, we will see here in a few minutes. They'll be here in just a few minutes. The main thing that I wanted them to come for, they asked for a vehicle replacement. Their budget is not far out of line from what, it's actually the request was less than what it was in 2020 by about $17,000. We made a slight reduction to that in a recommendation. And we may be able to do a little bit more there because this one is one of those also that I had talked to IT about. They'd made some requests for some monitors, computer monitors. And we want to try to funnel all that through IT. And as you heard yesterday, they've got a request in for $50,000 for monitor replacement. So that's something that finance has already made a correction to that. And so that'll hold. We did see about a $3,000 increase in the contract that we have with them. But like I said, the overall budget for them is still going to be less. But I wanted them to come and talk about the vehicle. And as you know, we leave that up to our fleet guy. And if you remember looking at it yesterday, they were number 3 and they were on the priority one of the 3. So that vehicle was, but I didn't know that at that particular time that I had asked them to have them come. So you can make that in short and sweet if you so desire, or you can ask a lot of questions whenever the time comes, when they get here. We can make that one go pretty fast. Magistrate Court. Magistrate Court had a couple of people are leaving, obviously. Lisa's leaving the Magistrate Court at the end of this year. So, and then she had a clerk that left here recently to have a baby. She's not planning to return. So we talked about that in finance, about covering the potential costs for like group insurance and things like that that are unknowns at this particular moment because we don't know who's going to fill those 2 positions. So we've covered that at the max to see if that's what we need to do. And then they had a couple of other minor increases in reference to just some small line item increases that made their budget go up as well. Let me see, let me find the end product here.
Still less though.
Yeah, it's even with putting the max in, we're looking at a recommendation of 459 and it was 455. So, and it may actually come in less depending on what those insurances look like. We still got some salary numbers to run right there. I think Brad's working on a couple of things right there as well. And some of these salary, especially in elected officials, may change because, we've got to, get all that down. The state changed that this year. And so they're running all those numbers to make that work. But those will be some minor changes that we'll have to deal with as we.
409 or 450? On my sheet it says 409.
No. The latest one.
459 is the recommended?
Yeah, 459. It was, their current budget's 455, 945. And it should be, the recommended is 459. Now you may have the old one before we had our conversation about.
Mine says
459,
Mine says
750.
409.
Okay, you must have an older one. Because one of the things I was looking at this and trying to think through the departments and the ones that I know it's gonna have some changes. I want to make sure we covered those insurance costs up front and things so that we didn't have to go back and look at that or make some kind of budget change later on to cover that, because you don't know exactly what somebody's gonna take, so I always like to cover that. The probate court, I think you can thank finance for theirs. I think they did the whole thing with no participation from the judge. And so they have made their recommendation, and
Probate.
Oh, my goodness.
Isn't that
All of that.
typical?
so that is a $16,000 reduction. Juvenile court is next. And the recommendation for them is what they've requested, and it's only $1,000 more than what they had the year before. Public Defender's Office is next. Let's see. Their recommended is the same as, their request is the same as what we're recommending to you, and that's a $441 reduction over this year. Sheriff's Office, K-9, they'll all be coming for you to talk to them here in just a little bit. The jail, school traffic management, school resource officers, the special event officers, as well as sheriff services, that all falls under the sheriff. So he'll be providing that information here in a little bit. We also had, you've heard from the fire department. You also heard about from the fire marshal and prevention yesterday. You also heard from emergency EMS and emergency management. The coroner's office, we're going over to Ted's office. His budget request is right in line with what he has in 2020. Actually, our recommendation is probably about $100-something more than he actually requested, but it's right in line. His 2020 budget was $125,696, and we're recommending $125,843. Pagers went up. Humane Society made the same request as they did in 2020 of $150,000. And that is the recommendation for that one as well. Public Works Administration, you'll see an increase in salary in that one, but that came from the salary study itself. And so group insurance, pretty close. It was up, well, it's pretty close to the same as it was last year. Most of their other line items stayed within some of the recommendations that we're making. There's some ups and downs in some of those areas. Requested for the administration was $228,007, and we're going to recommend $226,027 in reference to that one. Road Department, as you well know, there was some salary adjustments in that department as well. You'll see some increase there. You'll see a substantial increase in group insurance as well. A lot of their other line items, you had vehicle repair and maintenance, a slight increase in that one as well. And I did have, and I haven't had a chance to talk to David, but I did have a question for him, David, in reference to the liquid asphalt. He requested $16,000. He had $14,800 in 2020, but he only spent $3,205 in 2019. So question is, does he plan to need that much liquid asphalt? Is he going to use that much this year, and does he need that much in 2020? So I want to make sure that we give him what he needs. We need to fix the roads, but that's a pretty substantial jump this year and ask for next year prior to 2019. So we need to ask that question there as well. left his gravel budget similar to what it was, his sign budget and all those traffic signals and striping and stuff like that. Don't think we bought any salt in 2019. We had a pretty good year evidently. Didn't have to have that much, may have had a stockpile. Hopefully we'll be in that same luck this year. So we kind of looked at that particular line item as a way to save a little bit of money. We didn't take it out. We just lowered it just a little bit. Let's see. Well, obviously they saw some increase. They're going to see increase in their heating costs because their new facilities all propane compared to where it wasn't that way before. It's stayed the same as 2020, but just so you know, if you look at 19, you think, oh my goodness, how'd that go from $1,094 to $9,150? And you'll see that the recommendation that we made for gasoline and diesel and oil is a lot higher than what they requested, because you can look at the actualities of what happened in 19 and 18. They're actually burning more gas than that, so I don't know exactly where that fell through the crack, but
Where are they at year to date in that line item?
We have spent $29,075.
fuel and gas and oil.
Yes, sir.
Well, that might be close then. So in 19,
Yeah, it was a big jump. I mean, it's a big swing for some reason. Did we shift? I know last year we looked at shifting some of that fuel, the way it's purchased around a little bit from one. Do y'all
we did
remember
that on an overall thing because we were actually looking at it twice.
When we purchased the gas, it actually hits an inventory account in the fleet fund, and then as the departments use it,
Right.
it's fenced out for them. So,
We'll do a little more research on that one, so we may can lower that one down. Because I don't, 29,000 versus 100 that we've made a recommendation on, so.
Yeah, I mean, they're trending towards the 47. I mean, if you
Yeah.
extrapolate that out.
So we may need to look at 19 and see what we had there that went long, that made that change that way, I don't know. So maybe we can lower that one down, that'll be good. And if so, if we lower it down to even 50, then they'll be basically even. Because that was the one line item that made their budget go up about $39,000, so that'll take care of that. Even if we leave it at 60, we'll still be even on that one there. Health Department made the same request of $162,000 that they had in 2020. You just heard the Good Shepherd Clinic and their reasonings. Avita Community Partners, you heard. CASA, same request of $9,000 as they had in 2020. DFAX had a request of $34,300, which was a $2,000 increase. Right now, we're going to recommend the same as they got in 2020.
Do you know why they requested the 2,000?
Because you know, because they didn't,
The extra.
there's nothing wrote here.
There's an explanation attached, their letter, says an increase in the number of foster children entering care.
Oh,
Sounds like the main reason.
Okay. And you can make a decision on that one, but
well, looks like they gonna need that. Well, that's my opinion.
no one alone asked for an increase of $750. We've left that one at what it was, $42.50 at the moment. You can look at that as well. Indigent welfare remain the same. And then senior center. We're still working on the water and electrical portion of that one, because part of that's paid by the park, part of that was paid by the senior center, and I think up until now, the park had paid most of that. And so we're trying to subdivide that the way it's supposed to be. And so we'll be able to give you a better number on that as we move forward. Of course, they got the extra building now that the electricity, and that's the reason you'll see a request go from electricity from 8,800 to 19,000. So we're looking at those numbers closely, trying to get a better handle on what that number really needs to be. And most of the increase they're asked for falls within that, those couple, in that line item, and those couple of line items that are associated with that. And senior service donations, that number will get put in there as they come in. And we know exactly what those are, and that's a donation, so. Silver sneakers, they made the same request. Medicare Silver sneakers made the same request as they had in 2021. You can see the recommended there is just slightly below that. And so the park was next. One of the biggest changes you'll see in the park budget was down in property repairs and maintenance. Spoke with David and Matt in reference to that request, and they have some things that they want to fix on the grounds and stuff like that. So they've got a pretty good breakdown on that $57,500 to $70,000 request that they had asked for there. Still looking at that water and sewer deal as well, because that's part of a combined effort there. So we're trying to see what that's going to wind up being. But their request, as well as the recommended, is less than what they got in 2020. Their request was $1,202,158. And so right now we're making that recommendation of $1,202,158. Park general donations is just like the senior center donations. We don't know what those are until they're donated. And then what the women's club puts into the park obviously comes about as they do that as well. The park pool, the request for the park pool is down from 2020 by about $4,000, and that's a recommendation that we're going to make that matches their request. War Hill Park, their request for War Hill Park is down approximately $11,000, and that's a request for a recommendation we're going to make on that as well, which is what they had asked for. And that includes that Lake Lanier lights that we've kept the lights going on so people can see when they're boating. The library made the same request as they had in 2020 of $425, and that is the recommendation in reference to that as well. We used to have I think it was $1,100 for conservation. We moved that to general government, and we talked about that.
Quick question on the library. Now they're getting impact fees. Does that offset any of their?
All we have really is we don't have a breakdown of that.
So can we not offset that with impact fees? I mean, if
only certain things.
We allocated books, which I mean they got a pretty big balance sitting in impact fees. So why can we not use those to offset this out of our general fund?
You can only do certain things with impact fees, and operating like salaries and all the different things that are part of their budget, you can't do an impact fee.
But if they'll give us a breakdown of what they're
we
spending,
can get a breakdown of what it's going to go for.
Right, by the things that do qualify, which reduces our general fund.
Yeah.
I would think that the one thing might be able to reduce would be like supplies, because we're paying for books.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, but
It's not broke down. We need something broke down.
yeah.
Can
So if
y'all
you'll
ask
ask
them to
them to
break
send
that?
us some more of a breakdown, that would be good. There might be a line item or two in there that we could
Yeah.
reduce that
Well, we
by.
got, how much do we have? I mean, we've got,
They were given $50,000 this year.
I know, but we've got several $100,000 sitting in that account.
Yeah, they got several dollars.
I mean, eventually, I think we use that for another library on a different, down at 400 or somewhere. But
Yeah, I think in 2026, there was a proposed
but if we can offset any
long
of that
range for that.
general fund.
And then Clark's County Extension, his budget was pretty much in line with what he had gotten.
Same thing for parks, you know, because the parks have impact fee money sitting there too. So we might have to look at that.
I know some of it's going.
It was a 300 and,
Some maintenance stuff that might be used.
turf fields and things like
yeah. His request was about, about 300 something dollars, or around $300, and our recommendation totals up to about 318 in reference to that. So there's a line item or two that we corrected there as well. And then over on the Development Authority, you know, we have a contract there that we agreed to, and so that dollar amount projected is 240 for our agreement. And then some of their other financing uses, Vicki can probably explain those better than I can. Transfer outs to different organizations. You see that list there. If you have any questions about those, you can ask Vicki or Natalie about those specific items when we transfer money to different things such as 911 or GIS, capital. So.
These are other funds that general fund. They're not self-sufficient, I guess.
911 is a great example. We get revenue from 911, but it's not enough to cover it.
Grants, that's, we have the budget matches.
Yeah.
But we're still below what we were.
Yeah.
This year.
Oh, yeah.
Working on this, I put in 500,000 estimate for capital. Not sure if y'all want to do that much. That was just
Yeah.
put in there, sort of give you an idea of what.
You covered this earlier, I think. The loan amount that we have with Etowah, did y'all take that out this year? It's still in there because we haven't closed officially.
That's in the general government.
Right. So once we close, then that'll come out of that.
That'll come out of that.
Okay. Closing should happen any day now, I think.
Hopefully. All right. Now let's get back. I see that our district attorney has arrived. And so went over his budget there just a minute ago with you. Mainly I wanted Lee to come, as I said before, because he had asked for a vehicle replacement. And prior to getting the information from Shannon that his vehicle is a priority one replacement, and that's the reason I had asked you to come. So they may not have any questions for you, Lee, here in just a minute, but because your regular budget's not much different from what you had requested in 2020. But we had asked everybody that had asked for capital and asked for personnel to come in. So if you want to come on up and talk about that vehicle, and they can ask you any questions. They've looked at your other budget line items if they want to reference that. And you can make comments on those.
Okay, yes, I'd like to. The vehicle we want to replace is the 2007 Crown Vic. And, you know, that used to be the default police vehicle. I don't think it is anymore. Now they go with like Ford Explorers. And we've been buying Ford Explorers through a state program for around the $30,000 range. And they're worth, you know, I don't think, Julie, you could go to Ford and say, I want this particular Ford Explorer for $30,000. I don't think you get it. So we've been getting a good value on those. But it's a 2007 vehicle. It's got 134,056 miles on it. And it's had its difficulties. And Shannon said it should be replaceable. And I think for good reason. That's not the only thing that is in addition to, you know, over and above our general budget. Most everything is the same, but we did ask for some things that y'all might have already reviewed and I didn't hear. I think there was a $5,700 amount to replace some monitors and some speakers and a CD duplicator, all within that 57 $100 amount. We use the CD burners for discovery purposes. As far as the public defender's office is concerned, we can do that otherwise without actually using CDs. But we do a lot of practice with private counsel, and we just do a lot of discovery through the provision of CDs. And we have one older burner. We need another one that's included in that request as well. Also, we're asking for $1,700 for a large, more industrial shredder. What's happened over the last few years is that every time we turn around, the little tiny shredders we get for $300 break, and we replace them. We need a bigger shredder. We did a lot of research on it, found one for $1,700, which would fit the purpose and would have a 10-year warranty on it, and would be an office size shredder, which is certainly what we need, because we do shred a lot of paper material that we don't need in storage files and things like. After a case is closed, there's a lot of material that's shred, and so it's important that we have those. So those are some items over and above. Now, specifically on I did ask for some increases for 4 employees. Yeah, Dawson County was very generous last year, particularly with the salary study. The 4 employees that I'm asking some increases for, an amount of 10%, is because they were 4 employees, either because of length of service or for whatever reason. Y'all understandably prioritized the people that were way under where they should have been. And I think once y'all prioritize those people, there wasn't enough money in the end. And these 4 people, as I understand it, Conley has studied this more than I, frankly, but he's not here today. But they are below that which the study recommended that their position should be and their experience should be. And so I am asking 10% raises for Jamie Lambolia, Alexis Zada, Ali Ogletree. I think on the, she's shown as, we call her Ali. I think she's shown as Rachel, and also Lindsay Fields. Their salaries are simply not competitive, in my view, for the work that they do and the value that they have to the office. When I was talking with Conley about all this morning, he commented that any one of these people could walk out in the private sector. And I know private is different than government, but I think the even government sector and get more money than they get presently. And maybe even within Dawson County, should they change from one department to another. We need to keep our folks, because we train them up, they know how to do prosecution from an administrative perspective, and that experience is very valuable to us, and we just like to keep these folks. And so we did ask for those people to get some raises, those 4 people to get some raises as well. Now, I don't know what you all plan as far as raises for people across the board, or whatever it is that you plan, generally speaking. And, I'm not asking for, I'm not asking for it to be 10% over what y'all are already planning. If you might be planning, just to throw out a figure, a 3% raise, for example, across the board. And I'm asking for 10%. I'm really, in that reality, only asking for 7%. So I'm not asking for over and above what you might already plan. I can't understate the value that our victim witness people and our administrative people, who these 4 fall into, have to our office, and the necessity to keep them. So I just respectfully ask that y'all look at that very seriously for us, and come to a point where you can see that need is there, and help us out with that. That's really all I needed to say, unless there are questions or comments.
I would ask that you send us some information on those
Okay.
rate increase requests, but that's not on my sheet.
Oh, it's
Never
not.
have.
That's not been sent in to finance. If you send that to finance, and finance can give that out to We good? So-
Well, I thought it was, and I apologize. Oh, it didn't, okay, all right.
Detail on that.
All right, yeah, absolutely. We'll provide that detail and we'll do it quickly as we can.
And I'll go back, we talked about computer monitors, we did have a discussion with IT about monitors, and they have put money in their budget, monitor replacement throughout some of the ones that, so.
Yeah, we have ones that are dated back to like 2005 and
We
2007.
did not hear about that, so
Will that be taken out of his?
we made that recommendation. So, yeah, we're trying to get all that through IT. When we replace monitors and computers, stuff like that, we're trying to make that go through IT.
Okay, I understand. Our need for those is great.
Questions for Lee?
I just we made the same question previous, but could Brad look at those four? So, and see if they meet the 105
Yeah.
or possibly 107?
Alexis, Zada. Yeah, it's Rachel Ogletree, color Alley. Great, thank you. I apologize. I didn't realize that we hadn't already provided something more specific on that. You know, I got Lewis and I got Conley and it just didn't happen.
It's all
So
right, you can still give it to them.
thank you so much. You never rely on other people. I understand it. You just do it all yourself. Yeah, there you go. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, by the way, I do have two 2020 jokes. So there's three numbers talking to each other, 666, 13, and 2020. 2020 says to the others, you got nothing on me. And then the next, come on, that was funny. And then the other one is Back to the Future. And the professor says to Marty McFly, says, whatever you do, don't put 2020 in that car. We'll see y'all.
And we will. One more on the docket, and that'd be the sheriff. So you want to go ahead and text him and tell him that we're, okay, that we are ready when he's ready. All right, we're back ready to go. Sheriff Johnson is with us. He's our last presenter today in our budget hearing schedule. Thanks. You have the information in reference to the sheriff. He does have several personnel requests that he'll discuss with you, as well as some requests in his each department budget. So it's going to turn it over to you, Sheriff. Let's start with whichever one of your many budgets that you have. Of course, he has Sheriff's Office, Sheriff's Services, K-9, School Resource Officers. He has several. So
Before we get into
Thank
that,
you.
just a quick note. I've got to leave at 12, so it's not offensive to y'all if I get up and leave. I just want to let you know before we get started. I don't know how long we'll go, but I do have another appointment I got to jump to. So
That's his story.
I'm really just
It's
hungry.
a story.
I got to go to Atlanta. I'd rather sit here, believe
I
me.
sat by him a long time.
Well, Board, I appreciate the opportunity to be able to present to you this year's budget. I did provide each one of you with a copy of just some things I want to run by you before we actually get on the line items. I'm sure probably you've heard so far this week needs throughout the county, and obviously ours are the same, but I wanted to bring your attention to a couple of things. On page 1, if you look at the bottom, some of the things, and I'm sure we'll get into talking about that, it's just basically correcting some of our salary funding for holiday pay. And positions that we're looking at affect patrol, detention, 911 courts. We appreciate the positions that have been approved to this point, but we still find ourselves in need. In 2017, the Board of Commissioners approved a chief deputy position, a corporal investigator position, and a 911 supervisor. In 2018, there were no positions originally approved. In mid-2018, we did receive approval for 2 SRO positions, which are paid for 50% by the school system. In 2019, no positions were approved. In 2020, no were approved. In 20, just recently, October of 20, we were approved for the 2 heat positions, which are originally funded at 100% salary, and county funds the benefit package. So looking on down at your historical data, in 2017, we had 113 positions in our sheriff's office. In 2018, we added the 2 SROs to 115, 2019, 115. And then in 2020, we added 2 heat units just recently. I do want to let the board know that although we do receive support from the GSP, they do work a large majority of our recs. They may or may not be available. They're good to help us when they're here. And we certainly, the GSP's role is just that. They're very statistic driven. That's what justifies their existence and their means. So they're looking for stats. They're looking for recs. They're looking for DUIs. They're looking for traffic offenses. They're not going to be in our neighborhoods patrolling. They're not going to be checking our businesses, things of that nature. Dawson County is unique. And that's one thing I also wanted to bring out to the board. And obviously this may be old news to you. We're unique in that we're it. There's not many law enforcement agencies in Georgia where your sheriff's office is basically it. Obviously GSP helps. Take Forsyth County, for example. You have the city of Cumming that handles a lot of the city things. You have GSP presence there as well. Hall County, you've got Gainesville, you've got Flowery Branch, you've got Oakwood. You've got a lot of different agencies supplementing the sheriff's office patrol functions there. And even Dahlonega, you've got City of Dahlonega Marshal's Office, which is a certified position, as well as a notable presence in the college there. So we're basically it in Dawson County. Your sheriff's office provides 100% full service, and we, again, we're appreciative of what the GSP has done for us, but we're primarily it. Moving on, there was I want to refer to you to the 2015 study, and I know I brought that up year after year. That study identified and recommended over 139 positions to bring us up to the 2015 statistics of where we were at the time. Patrol numbers, now this is what's interesting. Patrol numbers, they use the Association of Chiefs of Police model to determine staffing. And that's what the Georgia Sheriff's Association did for us. Their patrol numbers were based on 10,607 calls for service. Fast forward to today, and we're on track to exceed over 16,000 calls this year alone. So again, we're taking a 2015 study, we're basing our staffing on it, but we see the increase of where we're at today, over a 6,000 estimated calls for service increase. That equates to an over 51% over the 2015 staffing study. When we talk about patrol, and obviously it's with 6,000 greater calls, and I think you even heard it from the fire chief yesterday, 911's taking a beating. So not only, I'm just presenting to you what the SO has today. You know that 911 fields SO, they field fire, and they field EMS. So you can imagine the beating and the increased workload that's being placed on our 911 center. But we also know, and you know, 2020 has been an anomaly. Some things I want to point out in just a few minutes. 2020 has come back with a vengeance on law enforcement. And I imagine it's been the same way with public safety and fire. We know it's affected our courts. Obviously, that's going to come back haunt us in 21. When they open up the courts, we're going to be paying for what's been shut down. But it's also going to negatively impact our investigations, court services, and our warrant services. We talked about GSP conducting a large majority of our traffic investigations, but it's important to note in 2019, Dawson County deputies worked 175 accidents. In the first 9 months of 20, we've worked 149. We're on track to work just under 200 or 15% increase over 19. Again, this is, to me, is kind of astounding when you think about our county. Our community was shut down for several months. So again, a lot of these things have just been coming since the economy has been reopened. In 2020, domestic violence cases increased over 27% from 2019. And I'm sure you heard that. When people are at home and they're quarantined, obviously domestic violence incidents increase. It's also important to note that not only did they increase 27%, but these are multiple officer responses. We don't, if we can help it, we don't go to a domestic violence call alone. It's the most dangerous call that an officer can respond to. Therefore, it requires multiple officers. And it also is typically involves a more time-consuming investigation. Significant increase in calls for our 911 operators. Even our criminal investigations, cases assigned to our criminal investigations are expected to exceed 470 cases this year, which represents an 18% increase over 2019. So we're still continuing to add on to these statistics. Increased calls for service are detracting our officers from the ability to be proactive, therefore reducing our crime. The inability to be proactive naturally increases the potential or the increases criminal investigations caseload. DUI arrests are expected to increase 75% over 2019. The more people we have in our community, the more vehicles, the more recreation that we have, ultimately is resulting in more DUIs on our roadways. More calls for service equates to reduced time for our officers to be proactive. And that's important to us. We do not want to be a reactive sheriff's office. We want to be proactive. We want to seek out the crime and stop it before it happens, before it injures someone. I did include in with you there at the bottom, the staffing study. I know it's kind of difficult to see. The second line, just because I'm not a computer person, your second line signifies what's the recommended numbers. That's the reason it seems odd. So where are we at now? Our call volume obviously is increased. We look at things that's happened, especially since 2015. If you've been out and about in our community, you look at Crown Point at Gold Creek, Creekstone, Silverleaf, Sweetwater Preserve, Blacksmill Preserve, Manzi Park, the crossing of Dawsonville. These are homes that's up in there. I mean, they're populated. These are the ones that's already contributing to our county. As the fire chief mentioned yesterday, he gave you, I think, some statistics and housing developments, not even in the city, but in the county. Y'all know that just like the fire, we service the city and county. So looking ahead, Obviously, there's a lot on our agenda. There's a lot on your agenda. Crystal Falls, I don't have a number there at the corner of Allen Street and Perimeter. I imagine those will come out of the ground soon. Hauser Mill, Thunder Ridge, that's back being actively developed. Harry Sosby development. One of the pictures I included in your handout shows Blacks Mill Preserve, and in the distance you can see the Harry Sosby development. It's going to be huge. I'm not sure. I'm getting 338 single-family homes is what I'm reflecting in my report. The college at Riley Place, Dawson Forest Road West, past Riverview, the Parker, peaks of Dawsonville, Dawson Ridge, and so many of our senior living type homes. So these all equate, and I know when you talk about senior assisted living type things, you think more of a fire response. I get that, I understand it. But it also presents more of an opportunity for crime. There's still cars there, there's still opportunity for people to be victimized. There's still be elder abuse cases, unfortunately. There's still a lot of things that will affect law enforcement operations. And also the mention of hotels. Obviously that changes things dramatically for our county. Then I did include you some pictures of some developments. Some of these things are old. Obviously, if you've been to Dawson Forest and 53, you've seen the complex down there that's well out of the ground. Our officers remain committed. You know, this is an interesting time in law enforcement, not necessarily in Dawson County, but it is affecting us in a certain way. And what I mean by that is officers today are being demonized. They're being vilified. They are perceived on the national level in a lot of places as the enemy. Now, we enjoy something special in Dawson County. We've had the greatest support. We've had communities, just an outpouring of support for our sheriff's office and for our deputies, which is a good thing. It's helped us. I think it's helped us with our recruiting. People want to police in Dawson County, unlike the city of Atlanta. But it has, I think it's swayed a lot of young men and women to really rethink what they want to do, what kind of career they want to serve in. And it's a sad day and time where officers around our county or around our country are being prosecuted for doing their jobs. So it's a scary time for us. It's a scary time for Dawson County. But I think that's, again, what contributes to our success as a county, where we're at, and where we're at with our staffing currently with what we're assigned. So with that being said, I just wanted to give you a little bit of background of where we're at, some of our calls for service, and the reason for our continued request. So.
Sheriff, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Go back to page 2. Pretty sure we approved 2 patrol positions in 2019.
We had 2 patrol positions.
2019 we did. 17, you're right, the 3 that you had there, and then the 2 SR officers. I looked this up myself the other day. In 2019, when we did 19 people, different people for different departments, there were 2 patrol officers that were approved there. Because I remember talking specifically about that with the captain at that time, about he was going to use that during y'all's peak time, which was 12 to 12, I do believe. So there were 2 positions that were approved there.
Okay. Well, I stand corrected on that.
Can you discuss the data on jail populations?
Well, obviously our jail population, I don't have the numbers for you right now, but obviously our jail population has, again, factoring in 2020. One thing that's happened, obviously our courts have emptied out our jails, and I am not saying completely emptied out our jail, but the courts were very proactive in getting people out. Nonviolent type offenders, they want them out of our jail to, at least lessen the opportunity for an infection or a COVID infection. Not only that, a lot of agencies are simply, we haven't missed much of a beat in Dawson County, but there's a lot of agencies around that pretty much quit serving warrants. They quit taking people into custody. Obviously, each crime would dictate, a certain response. However, agencies pretty much draw back on a lot of incarcerations. So with the combination of corrections taking folks out, or the courts taking folks out of our jail, corrections also is much more responsive to getting folks out of our jail, getting them into the system. In addition, with the warrant services or the lack thereof at certain agencies, it has affected our jail population. However, we are starting to climb back up again. Court not being a service is not sending a lot of people to jail. That's right. Bonding a lot of them out. And a lot of them are finding different ways to deal with, right? I have a question. Was showing the number of calls and stuff coming up in the city, and we asked the fire chief this yesterday. If you could get for us how many calls has increased in the city? Just, I mean, I know with the rooftops they've had and rooftops they got coming. Right. I think his went up 45% from Station 1 running calls just in the city. And if you could get us a number of just how many calls are we running just citywide? Do we differentiate? Okay, we can get that. Thanks.
And on that same note, the same thing I've asked fire is in a lot of these subdivisions you point to density wise or inside the city limits. And the challenge that we have as a board is for every house that gets built, we're responsible for providing protections, not only in your space, but also with every other thing that we offer. So I would that I invited the city representatives to come and hear you speak and hear the fire speak, because a lot of things you talk about, a lot of things that fire talks about, everybody else that talks about, the decisions that city folks make is an impact to the service that you have to deliver.
That's right.
And same thing with everybody else. So for me, it's very important for them to have an understanding of what your concerns are and what your needs are. So I would respectfully ask, since the city was not able to participate in person, they might be online, but I would love to see you set up a meeting with them to go over these needs that is being created within their footprint. They don't have to pay for it. We have to pay for it. But it's still a need. To your point, the growth creates the needs that are there, especially in a patrol side to run through those neighborhoods and things like that. So I would highly encourage communication with that board so that they gain a better perspective of what your needs are, so they may understand the challenges that this board has by funding that stuff.
And we've had some, obviously, non-official communications between myself and the mayor in regards to some things. We remain hopeful that we may be able to work some things out. But again, that's merely speculation on my part.
Sure.
But wherever y'all want to start at, board, we can start with the sheriff's 3,300 if you'd like to start there. Some of the big things that really point out to me, one is obviously our salaries. We have asked to unfreeze the remaining positions. One thing that we want to do, obviously we continue to move positions around in our sheriff's office to meet current needs to where we're at. What we primarily would do with these positions, should they be unfroze, is that we want to supplement our 911 center, our patrol function, as well as our criminal investigation. Obviously, our statistics back up the need for it. So that's where we would use. We still have our needs in the jail, and we'll talk about that as well. But obviously, having the flexibility of being able to move bodies where we need them helps us tremendously. One thing that I've been in contact with Ms. Vicky about, one thing that we've noticed is that when we're in our salaries, our holiday pay was never factored into the officer's salaries. Now, it affects shift personnel only. Administrative personnel that work Monday through Friday obviously take the day off. Investigations, I mean, they're always subject to on call, but if they're working, they traditionally get the day off, the holiday off. But shift personnel are not so much. They're hit or miss whether or not they get the day off. So I've asked, working with Ms. Vicky, I was able to provide some numbers to get our salaries more reflective of what those numbers actually are. So what we've been doing in years past is that obviously we've been having to take what may be residual left over from other things to help compensate for this. So that's part of it, as well as asking that the board would include that in this year's budget, just to amend that or to fix that to where it's accurate. Any questions over the salaries that I might can answer for anyone? We've got, make sure I'm not telling you wrong. 8. You have, currently we're short on body wise. We have 2 vacancies in patrol, which we have applicants in line with it. Detention, we have 8 vacancies and 1 vacancy in 911. 8. Yes, sir. 8 total pros across the board. Right. Now, one thing about that, obviously our jail, and we've talked about this many, many times, our jail it feeds the other components from our patrol division, court services, warrants, things of that nature. We always draw from the jail. We try to promote from within. We recruit. The jail's a tough bird anyway, in that it's where officers cut their teeth. It's where they learn whether or not they're going to be able to police. We lose a lot. We do an extensive background. We try to let folks know exactly what they're signing up for. But when the door locks behind them and they're in a cell block with 30 individuals, things change a little bit. And a lot of folks, or I won't say a lot, but some realize that maybe this is not for me. So we try to screen as best we can. We have a very thorough process. We have a very thorough interview process. But obviously we lose folks there. But our jail is always going to suffer traditionally. We've talked about this many, many times. The pay is, we're still lagging well behind in our pay for our jail. That makes it difficult. The job's hard enough alone, but considering the pay, it makes it difficult to recruit. And we're not alone. Most agencies are in the same boat that we are when it comes to our detention center. Was it, Sheriff, just roughly, was it cost to train somebody and you train them, they're leaving? Well, in our jail facility, obviously we have to give them everything. You could put a dollar amount on everything, from bringing them in, from equipping them, from giving them their first 2 weeks. We're having to dedicate people to pull them aside to teach them when they could be out patrolling. They could be out doing other things, but we have to teach them and train them. So we're constantly having to train employees. I'm not saying that would ever go away, but it could be reduced. Obviously, to become jail certified, we have to get them in that training, which is a 2-week training program. We pay their salary there. We pay for their meals, those related type expenses. Once they succeed there and do their time, their number comes up, they go to the academy. It's 11-week academy now. So we've got a good investment with them. Used to have some rough dollar amounts on it, but by the time you factored in all of their training, their FTO training, their academy training, our investment with them, if my memory serves me correct, it was up in the 40s, if not 50s, for what we're investing in one officer. It's not cheap.
Question on jail, and I've never understood this, I guess. We've got 8 vacant positions in jail. We have a request for 4 more detention officers and a request for 2 deputies. Based on the information that you provided a minute ago, to me, that points to more deputies to patrol all these new areas. So why would those numbers not be flip-flopped? Again, I rely on you to provide that data because I mean, it seems like you'd want more people out in the streets versus more people in the jail, especially when if you have 8 vacancies plus we add 4 positions, that's 12 vacant positions in the jail versus only 2 more people in patrol.
Right. And well, that again, it just reflects back to our ability to be able to move folks around. Instead of coming in and asking you for 8 more patrol positions, we are just asking to release what we currently have frozen, that we've had frozen for years. Then we would take those positions and we would allocate them where we would need them to be, in a nutshell.
So you're asking for 4 detention officers, but you'd really use them for sheriff deputy.
Yes, they would be moved to others. We're just asking to release those positions that were frozen there.
Okay. We got 2 vacant patrol right now.
That's correct.
Okay. How many do you plan on moving to patrol if those 4 detention officer positions get released?
We would estimate right now, just initially, and then again, we would have to look back at this, but we would initially look at moving about 3 positions to patrol, 3, possibly 4. Our goal is to have 6 per shift. That's where we want to get to with this. Obviously, our 911 center is increasing, although they do have a frozen position. We may have to add additional positions to them to help them. And then as well as potentially supplement our investigations or also detention. Now, we still need detention officers, and I don't want to send the message that we don't need them. And the reason for that being, take, for example, the factors that affect our detention center, or our detention officers. The goal of most young men and women getting into law enforcement is to get to patrol, to get to investigations, to do other things. Very rarely do you find anyone that steps into a detention role and decide, I want to be a detention officer in my career. So one thing that affects is having in this number, let me chase a rabbit for a minute. This number is very deceptive in that we don't go year round with 8 or 9 openings. There's times that we're close to full. There's times that we have applicants. Right now, as it stands, we've got 3 highly qualified, very certified, very well-trained applicants that have applied for us in patrol positions. Don't have a place to put them right now. We got 2 in the background. So we're constantly pulling from detention. We do prefer to promote within. So we like for our young detention officers to come out. I think patrol has realized a lot of good success with them. But one thing that hurts is that we may have, although we've got openings there, we've got 8 openings in detention. We pulled from detention to staff patrol. We pulled from them to staff these other positions. So that makes it look like that we've already run with so many short in detention, which is just not the case. They, unfortunately, are the recipient of borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. But things like when we do have good applicants, when we get them in here, if we don't have sufficient staffing to be able to send folks to the academy, to be able to delay. And I can tell you, when your number's up and you're a young person, you're excited about going to the academy, and I know that my time's coming, and all of a sudden I may have one resign or I may have this happen. Well, I'm sorry, we can't let you go to the academy right now because we have needs to fill. Takes the wind out of ourselves. It's very bad on morale. It's bad on the agency because ultimately we would like to have that detention center with a good pool of qualified, certified candidates ready to go. Anytime we have someone resign, we have somebody in place ready to insert in that position in an ideal situation, but we don't. So we do have openings right now. We do have good candidates in the pipe. It may take anywhere from 2 to 3 months to hire a candidate. And I know that may sound unreasonable to some, but by the time we have to get a polygraph done, we don't have a polygraph machine in Dawson County, nor do we have a polygraphist. So we have to schedule with someone else to get that done. We have to abide by their schedule. We have to work with our psychiatrist to have psychs done. We have to work with our doctor to get that done. So there's a lot of different things. We have to set up board interviews. We have to pull people off the road to conduct those interviews. So there's a lot of factors there with our detention center that there's still a need for. And I certainly don't want to send that message.
Difference in cost between, you said you'd move 3 detention officers over to deputies. That's a cost difference of approximately 67. I assume you would do a pay increase when you move them over there.
Right.
725 times 3. So that's a cost difference of about $25,000. And you would just make that up within your budget somewhere else?
Yes.
I mean, I agree with you. We need more presence out on the streets and whatnot. Deputies would be an important thing for me to see more of.
Any other questions regarding salaries? All right. Well, moving right along, what we would like to ask you, if you look down at salary overtime, we've been recommended for $81,000. 164. Now, again, this could be offset with staffing. But as it stands right now, as we currently stand, we are looking at roughly about 110,000 to 115,000 in overtime this year. Again, this year's been different, but we're still having a lot of cases being made. There's still a lot of activity going on, criminal activity going on that's requiring the overtime. So I would like to ask you to consider raising the recommended from overtime from the 81,164 to the 110.
Sorry. You said you're at 110, is that what you said?
Well, we're year to date, what I've got is close to 80,000 currently. I'm estimating based on the past month's averages to roughly hit in about 110. And looking even at 2019, we had 129 for overtime. Now there was 81 in 18.
You did request 81,000.
I wouldn't doubt it. Yes, ma'am. We've done some fine tuning since then.
You're fine. You can go. We can keep, you can,
Overtime right now, they're at 79,360.
right at what you said. Perfect.
Looking down through the rest of it, obviously with the recommendeds, we feel comfortable. We feel like we can maintain within those amounts. One thing I want the board to know too is that we've spent, the first 2 or 3 years that we were able to get some things done. We were able to get some things accomplished. So again, I don't want to send the board a message that we're going to, that we're going to have this big extravagant amount to return to, but there'll always be money returning, simply because, you don't buy a simulator every year. So we've been able to do some good things with what we've had left, and therefore eliminating needs for that. We're maintaining now as far as equipment goes. That's where we're at.
You bring up a good point. You have a request for 25,000 for small equipment. It's 531,601, but we didn't have that as recommended. Can you tell me what that is?
Let me find you.
It's got, you got a 20,000 above it. So I don't know if, and that's got SW by it. I don't know.
Small equipment. So
SWAT. Okay.
Oh, yes.
SWAT.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, we're still pulling it from other areas to do our training, but obviously I will request it.
Okay. You've already got SWAT stood up. I mean, you've already got that
Yes, sir.
running.
Right.
Okay.
Another thing that we were able to accomplish with what we had, thankfully.
Okay. And we got a big difference in diesel. 2019 was over 300 grand. What are we at year to date on that one now? Is that trending? I mean, obviously y'all made that recommendation at 250 based on where we were trending. So don't worry about it. We can keep going.
Hold up now. They're right at 95,000.
Through 10 months, so 9,000 a month
That'll be
through 9 months.
Cost.
So the 10,000 a month.
Cost has been down on fuel too.
This is true.
November 3rd may be a tell.
Yeah. I'm afraid it won't be the 3rd. I'm afraid it might be the 30th.
The cost of the
January
fuel, that's the only thing.
That's true.
The only thing that's been good, fuel's down.
Okay. So his request really 145 would trend right where we're at. So we might look at,
I think we were looking at prior 2 years.
yeah. And Tim brings up a good point. Cost of fuel. Never know where that's going to land.
Any questions on the sheriff, that portion of it?
No.
K9, is that good? Is that where everybody else is at?
How many we running now?
We've got, major treatment for on 3 multi-purpose dogs, bomb dog.
Yes, we're running 4?
Yes, sir.
Good deal.
Nothing really changed there. We feel like we can maintain within those recommendations.
Questions on K9? We got jail next. All right. Who we got, Robert?
The jail basically is the same thing as spoke with Commissioner Gaines momentarily ago. We've asked for the positions to be unfrozen. Just simply to, I guess in my mind, simplify things, we could just unfreeze them instead of adding to them to release those. We did also factor in the holiday pay for the shift folks there. And I think y'all may have gotten that in an email afterwards. Any question I can answer for you over the salaries? Yes, ma'am. Oh, yes, ma'am. To date, let me make sure I'm telling you right, Ms. Vicki. To date, we spent a little close to 62. We are estimating that we potentially have about 30 more thousand by the end of the year. So we would request for the overtime to be adjusted to 90 there. And again, this, a lot of factors into that as well.
Have y'all had a lot of extra expenses this year with COVID stuff? Obviously, you've had to clean a lot more and things like that.
Correct. Yeah.
Are y'all tracking that separate? Is that something we can turn in through that grant? Their COVID expenses? So we're getting that data then. Okay, cool. Okay, excellent.
Property repairs and maintenance is kind of, we are due for the Muffin Monster. There's no absolute expiration date on that, but we are getting close to that time being. Everything that comes through the sewage has to be shredded. So obviously, everything and anything that can be flushed gets flushed down through the jail, and before it goes into the system has to be. Yes, ma'am. Right. A big garbage disposal. Right. And that's actually the name of it. That's not a nickname.
This went out before.
I'm sorry.
This went out before.
Yes, sir. It's been replaced once
Yes,
already.
that was several years ago, but it went out before.
And it is very problematic when it does go out. There's actually an alarm system on it that notifies us when it stops working or when it gets, so it has to be serviced too. But we are getting due for it. So far this year, obviously our building's getting older. It's still in very, very good shape for where we're at with it. We spent, I think year to date, 113, close to 112.4. Again, we're just estimating we may potentially have another 6,000. And then the Muffin Monster in there. So 175 may be a little bit high with that.
Should we?
Do you remember?
Will we not want to put that in capital if it's a big enough thing?
Yeah, it was pretty expensive.
Is it over
that time we did it.
25,000?
It's about 20 something. 20.
I don't know if it's that high or not.
It'd be under capital though.
Yeah, we'll pull that out.
Yeah, it was 20 something thousand, I think.
That may be. Let me do what I'm sorry.
Get the cost of that for us, please.
Yes.
Anything called a muffin monster can't be cheap.
Other than that, some things have been a little bit slow this year, obviously with training, offsite training, a lot of that's been canceled. We do anticipate for it to open back up, which it would also apply for the patrol side of it. We do anticipate for training to reopen some, but we feel good looking at our water, our sewer, and our gas. We feel like we're good with those. Inmate meals is always kind of a little bit of gamble based on population and so forth. But I do anticipate things, if we look at the activity that's occurring within our county, if we listen to the courts and we feel confident that they're really going to crank things back up in January, we're probably going to need those meals for our jail.
Did you want to talk about the contract?
Just all of them in general, or? Oh, okay. Yes, we did. Oh, yes, ma'am. Good point. We did bring up, we did submit to Miss Vicky some numbers, hopefully that those got to you, that we would ask for. We're just growing. And obviously, a lot of jails around provide 24/7 medical coverage. We obviously could stand to have that at Dawson County. We take a lot of liability off of our staff. We would lean on the expertise of those medical services provider. So we would ask that you consider that as well. That would give us 24-hour coverage. We would always have a nurse on staff at the jail.
How long are they there now?
I want to say 12 hours.
Sheriff, is there a possibility a paramedic could, I know some jails, I used to work with a couple of guys that retired and actually went to work for jails that were paramedics. Is that a possibility that a paramedic could work at night, or?
Well,
is it got to be a nurse?
We had, at one time, we had our own county employed staff there. And there were issues. There were issues with our contracted medical service provider, who was actually a doctor, and some of our medical staff. And we found that some things were conflicting, that had different opinions. And obviously, my background's not medical. Nobody's sheriff's office is medical. So, you get pulled in a lot of different directions, a lot of different opinions. I don't know that with our current provider, they might look at them as an employee on a part-time basis.
Right. I mean, that's what they would work for, your medical control.
I would imagine that would be yes.
If he would approve, or whoever runs that.
Yes, sir. Right.
Because I know that happens around different areas, that they hire paramedics.
Right.
I mean, because really, if they're under that control of that medical director, they can do more than a nurse.
Yes, sir. I would think they would be open to that.
Yeah. Thank you.
What? In your inmate medical, you requested 400,000. That number doesn't cover 24 hours.
No, sir.
What is that?
Miss Vicky, I don't think I even pulled that one.
What was your question?
Look at inmate medical. Question.
That does, yes, ma'am.
What you had there was 400,000 in that. It doubles, so I was sure. You had the right number there, wasn't it?
I think, Chairman, I didn't get a response back after this was submitted, I believe.
That's 568, I don't know. Okay.
Everything else in the detention line items, again, we feel confident we can remain within those numbers. Any questions I could answer else for you about detention? Y'all have school traffic, that's not changed. Would you like to go to resource officers? Yeah, we're good with our resource officers. The only thing that we did was make some provisions for, well, no, not even for those, because they do take the holidays off. Schools are out, so they take the holiday off as well. So
We get some of that money back from school system.
I'm sorry.
So we get some of that money back from school system,
Yes, right.
50%. Right.
The other budget has revenue.
Now, does the traffic, they don't get paid for school, does it?
Yes.
They get paid?
Yes.
Okay. Same thing, the 50%?
I think it's 100, is that? Or is it 50?
50%, okay.
The resource officers attend shift change meetings?
No, that's, I was looking at that myself, Commissioner. That may have just been a duplicate placed in there. Yes. So you disregard that.
And you don't need any overtime. You had some in 19, we didn't have any in 20. You're
Very
comfortable.
little.
It's tiny amount.
Right.
That could be a special event in the school, something like that, where they have the
Which is paid
security
through
or
there.
whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, special events next.
And special event officers, again, we're good with those numbers there. That typically stays pretty stagnant.
And now you said that was 100%?
Tell me again what the special event officer, what is that? Where do they come into play? Like, is that a third party that has like a festival and then they need a special event and then they pay? Is that what that?
Football games, basketball games.
But that gets reimbursed. Okay, so it's a wash through. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a complete wash though. Okay.
Anything else I can answer for you on the school? Are y'all at, y'all are at?
Sheriff Services.
Sheriff Services, okay. Again, we got, they do a shift change, but it's built into where they're at, so you can disregard that too. Honestly, with our, Sandra, were we off on our salaries? Sheriff Services. Need to clarify the number on the sheriff's services salaries because I think we're going to be high. So with the recommended, but we'll get some clarification on that. Overtime, we're good with it. We can maintain that. They do have some overtime. They spent 9 this year. We're estimating another 3 potentially. So we should be good with the 14,000 has been recommended for it. Just looking down through there, everything else pretty much will stay the same.
No.
E911. What we've done with E911 as well is factored in those are shift employees that may or may not get the holiday. So we have asked for that as well. We did ask for the unfreezing of the position. Again, we would take those positions should they be allotted and put those where our greatest needs are at the time. We feel good with our salary overtime. We do need to talk briefly about property repairs and maintenance if we could. We got, Sandra and I went back. We had requested 150. We've decided that is too high. Recommended was 70, but we do need to ask for an increase in there to approximately $90,000. And the reason for that, we've got, in our property repairs and maintenance, we have, since we've had our 911 system put in, there are two very large bills that typically come due on us that basically is taking the place of Colossus. We still realize that we have data master costs, we still have note page cost, we still have copy cost, quality recording costs, solutions, things of this nature. Roughly figuring what we have, that's roughly about $75,000 for the maintenance cost that will replace the Colossus. And when you factor in the other programs, I guess, that I just mentioned, that's going to raise us about another $15,000. So we would like to ask that disregard the 150, insert our request for 90,000. And again, but this is a recommendation. This is a 20,000 over recommended.
I mean, you got to have it because you got the software.
Yes. And that's where we found ourselves this year, pulling from other areas to try to cover it. Radio system maintenance is another one. We twice a year, Motorola will hit us with roughly a $48,900 bill, then another $24,316 bill. This is annually, so right there off the bat, we're getting close to $75,000 in it. Then we also have you have monthly Windstream bills. You have Georgia Power as well as Sony Electric. Then we also have gas monthly. We have maintenance on the repeaters or the stations at the different towers. So we would like to ask that you, we've got a recommended of 82, but we will meet close to that 100, factoring in the others. Sony alone may run anywhere from $650 a month. Georgia Power, $335 a month. Gas, and they do fluctuate. Windstream, $645. Georgia Power, $274. Windstream, $645. So we have some additional cost in there on top of the Motorola maintenance.
I missed it, Sheriff, on, and y'all might have did this before we settled. Where's the TV expense, the new one that we have that we didn't have in the past? Where is that in your, under what, under sheriff budget or under jail or? Okay. Under jail, we've got 0 for community. You guys added it in. Okay. Okay.
Telephone we feel comfortable with our 911.
You like that new 911 system?
Aside from that, we did ask for 3,000 to be added to our small equipment just for some additional fireproof cabinets for documents. And that mainly is our GCIC documents and warrants, things of that nature. Other than that, everything looks good with those two requests to change those amounts.
Education and training, now the recommended is 2,500. Are you good with that? You had asked 5,000.
I'll field to Miss Alicia. Can we meet with the 2,500, Miss Alicia? I didn't see that one. 2,500 is fine.
It'll work.
The 2,500.
Yes, ma'am. Recommended. Again, we do anticipate training them to open back up again this year.
Other questions?
One of the, this is kind of ancillary of this process, but one of the things that we looked at, and I'm sure y'all are aware of, is the 911 center on Splosh, something that we might look at a project-wise. that's probably a couple years down the road. Is there anything that y'all need to prep for in order to make that transition, or anything that would be out of normal that you would need to training wise or anything like that?
Ms. Alicia may be better.
And I'm just throwing that out there
answer
because
that.
make
I think-
sure we
I
got,
think staffing is going to be a big key to it.
that's what I'm worried about is
Staffing will be something that we have to look at. It will also be things like common ones needing to implement vetting service. So AT&T on that contract, and my recommendation for building center to approach AT&T and completely eliminate them. There are a lot of other things the state is actually still finalizing some of their plans, so we have additional recommendations that are forthcoming that you have to
And you've sat down with McKee, have you sat down with McKee and gone through some of the, because he handles the Splosh programming? Okay. I might order to schedule that.
Sheriff, we'll talk a little bit about.
Obviously, body cameras are, I'm not going to say it's a trend. I think it's a necessity nowadays. The cameras themselves have been coming down in price. But we still have the challenge and the cost of storage. And this is what gets us. We also have to have something that's going to integrate with our current car systems that we have in place. We prefer to stay with the same provider, the same brand, same storage, same accessibility, things of that nature. So I think it's important, just from a county's liability perspective, that and that we get serious about these discussions, that we look strongly at these. Obviously, there's both sides of the argument, how video can be interpreted. But I think in this day and time, especially with unrest throughout the country, again, I hate to say that we kind of live in a bubble here. It scares me to even say that, but we do have something special here. However, we do know that it's changing. We do know that the people coming into our county, not necessarily residents, but visitors, oftentimes, but are changing as well. So something that we do want to look at closely with it. Bulletproof vest, obviously, we continually have to replace those. The current ones that we have, which will be coming due. And Major, you can correct me if I'm wrong, next year? We were fortunate on our last ones. We were able to get, I think, 6 or 7 year warranties out of them. Once that warranty goes, they need to be parked. So those are some of the big items that we are looking at as well.
Was it last year we had, in the last couple of years, I think we had a capital for a new HVAC system. We put that in last year. Did that get done?
We're still lacking one this year. It's been approved for this year.
Okay.
But we still.
Okay, for this, okay.
Right. And I think, as a matter of fact, I'm certain that will be it. We'll be caught up
Okay.
to the next, hopefully, 5, 6 years before we visit that again.
Right. Body cams, can you spread those out over a period of, this is a 5-year capital projection. Is there a way to spread any of that out? So it's like your bulletproof vest. It's something that we've realized with computer equipment. We did it all at one time and now we get hit all at one time versus doing a little bit every year to try to spread that out.
I agree. I think that's the best plan for it. Obviously, we'd put them on our patrol units first.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's the route to go.
Could you get us a number? What would it look like for first year?
Yes,
and maybe an allocation schedule for moving forward 5 years? Or whatever time frame you think, if it's 3 years, then it's 3 years or 2 years,
How
whatever.
many are they? How much?
There's 600 something fees.
And then you
That's
got
pretty
the,
good pricing, Greg. I thought they'd be more than that. That price, $600 something, that's, it's come down, hasn't it?
Yes.
then you got the hardware side that, like you said, storage of all that video takes a big.
We do have the infrastructure in place, which is good.
Okay.
We just have to add to it, of course, more storage.
Yeah.
Infrastructure's already there.
Okay. So 600, the 142 is just for the body cams themselves at $600 a piece?
No, that was the bulletproof vest, I'm sorry.
The body cams.
You got to put it on 600. Yeah.
There's 76 of them.
Bulletproof vests, are they measured for the person that comes in, or?
That's
are they
right. Yes,
like
ma'am.
medium, large, or how does that work?
They're specifically measured
that
and
person-
tailored, right?
Okay, if they leave, we just hope that somebody comes in that can wear that one.
We typically don't reissue them just because you can't wash bulletproof
Oh.
vest. You can wash the covers, but you can't wash the vest, but yet sweat gets through. Typically, if it's got some type of body fluid on it, it may get replaced anyway, but we don't, just for sanitary reasons, we don't. And plus, it may or may not fit exactly like they're supposed to.
I have a little bit longer torso than somebody else, and you're gonna leave the place open that's
Right.
a vital place you need to be protected.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
I think I'd want mine custom fit.
Huh?
I think I'd want mine custom fit.
Yeah, I want custom.
But you mean, see how expensive that is?
Yeah.
And we're all coming different shapes and sizes.
Cost
I
of doing
think that's
business.
what the fire chief said yesterday.
Yes.
The
They're-
cost
Is
of
that-
outfitting these public safety people,
Mhm.
we need to keep them.
Mhm.
We need-
I would say this, we've been very, very fortunate with our retention. We've, and that equates to it. And again, I'll also express to the board, I appreciate you working with the men and women to give them some, in my opinion, some well-deserved raises. I thank you for that. But ultimately, it saves us money. It equates to a higher level of service to our county, but it also saves us money.
Mhm.
Other questions for the sheriff? Any other questions? Thanks,
All
sir.
right. Thank you, board.
Thank y'all. I told her I was running late.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
That's the last department that we have on the agenda for today. We've been through the rest. Appreciate the board's attendance. Appreciate everyone who's participated, those online that are listening. And with that, we will be adjourned. Thank you.